I think Nirvana was my first CD from all of that, and then it went on to, then I discovered the Melvins. I was a big Alice in Chains fan. Soundgarden. I was learning early that I liked heavy guitar.
Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu Der Soundtrack meines Lebens. Ich bin Jan Schwarzkamp und ich werde euch in diesem Podcast auf eine musikalische Reise mitnehmen. Eine durch das tönende und klingende Leben meiner Gäste. Mal nerdig, mal erhellend, immer persönlich. Ein Austausch über Popkultur im Allgemeinen und ein Blick aufs Leben durch die Linse der Musik im Speziellen. Viel Spaß mit der folgenden Episode. Zu Gast in dieser Episode von Der Soundtrack meines Lebens ist Laura Pleasance. Sie wächst mit ihrem Zwillingsbruder in Greensboro, North Carolina auf und direkt dann nach der Highschool zieht sie nach Savannah, Georgia, um Kunst am Savannah College of Art and Design zu studieren. Seitdem sie 16 ist, spielt sie Gitarre. Sie hat eine Garage-Rock-Band namens The Flies, erlebt eine Punk-Sozialisation und wird in Savannah 2001 Teil der Band Kylesa. Zwischen 2001 und 2015 veröffentlichen Kylesa 7 Alben. Der Sound wurzelt in der Crust-Punk-Szene und dem sumpfigen Sludge Metal der Südstaaten. Bald kommen verstärkt progressive und psychedelische Elemente hinzu. Pleasance wird parallel zur Metal-Heldin stilisiert. Als leuchtendes Beispiel, wie man Coolness, Stilbewusstsein und Können vereint. 2016 gehen Kylesa in eine 8-jährige Pause. Pleasance nutzt die Zeit, um sich musikalisch mit der Band The Discussion neu zu erfinden. Hier vereint sie ihre Leidenschaft für Post-Punk, New und Dark Wave. Und nach mehreren Kleinformaten ist im Mai 2025 das Discussion-Debütalbum All the Pretty Flowers erschienen. Um mit der Musik überleben zu können, hat sie schon jeden Scheißjob gemacht. Sie hat Hunde ausgeführt, gekellnert, historische Führungen geleitet, viktorianische Häuser restauriert, Badezimmer gekachelt, you name it. Und jetzt freue ich mich, Laura Pleasance hier in der Soundtrack meines Lebens willkommen zu heißen. Hi Laura, happy to have you here.
Hi, Jan.
Yeah.
Very pleased to be here.
Very well. You're very welcome. I'm happy that you are here. I never had a metal guitar heroine here on my podcast, so this is a new thing. So Laura, thinking way back to when you were a little child in Greensboro, what is the earliest musical memory you have?
Oh, earliest memory? I don't recall really, other than just the radio.
Yeah.
And then it was just whatever was on the radio.
Where was the...
I know that my mom told me when I was a kid, we used to have you could read a book along with learning the song.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, I knew you were into music because you really, really enjoyed the Pokey Little Puppy. Whatever that was. And I don't remember. But I just remember the radio.
And where was
I did not grow up in a musical household.
Where was the radio situated? Was it in the kitchen? Was it in the living room?
It was the living room, but also the car.
Yeah.
So maybe the car radio.
Did you often go by car and always listen to the radio?
My mom always had the radio on in the car.
Did she drive you to school?
Yes.
Yeah. And did she also put on her own music?
Yes, it was her own music, but mainly the radio.
Yeah.
It was probably like the oldies station or something.
But your dad, he wasn't much into music, but your mom, she loved Motown and soul.
Mm-hmm. Her biggest loves were Motown and soul. But she also liked a lot of the classic rock and folk stuff.
Yeah.
I remember when I was maybe in the 7th or 8th grade, I was rummaging around in the attic, just snooping around, and I found her record collection, and I didn't know they were hers. I just saw all these records, and I dragged them out, and I was like, whose are these? And my mom was like, oh, that's my old record collection. And I started going through them, and I said, okay, so for Christmas, I want a record player.
But that's crazy. Like she had all her records on the attic, not in the living room with a record player.
No.
But why is that? Did she just give up her old love for music?
I don't know. I think when I was really young, maybe there was a record player in the house, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
And then I think it was just the radio, and my mom and dad kind of like different kinds of music, and it wasn't the happiest household.
Yeah.
So she just gave up.
Yeah.
She had a bunch of kids and gave up. I don't know.
Can you remember what you discovered in her record collection?
Certainly the Rolling Stones, the Doors,
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin, those are some big ones. There's some folk stuff that I tried but didn't like. Then she had like all the Beatles records.
Yeah.
I really liked the Motown stuff. She had a lot of that. And I never listened to it before without she would play it, so I'd hear it from her.
Would you say that the music that you discovered by hers, that it shaped you somehow, or that you still for some part hold dear to your heart?
It was certainly a part of me, like for certainly like Beatles, Rolling Stones, Zeppelin, and the Doors, like
the timeless classics.
Those timeless classics, she had.
Yeah.
And she had, it's not like she had a ton of records, but like looking back, there was probably 100 records or so, 150 records.
Well, that's quite a bit.
Yeah, that I like looked through, and some of them were trashed, some of them were in very good condition. It just kind of depended. And then back then, everyone wrote their names on their records.
Oh yeah.
So
my father did so awesome.
I thought it was really cool, and it said Jenny Laguerre on like her records. And to this day, I don't have all of her records anymore. I've moved so many times, and when I was younger, I sold some of them, like not thinking.
Yeah.
But I do still have some records that have her name on them.
But my father wrote his full post address into the sleeve and his initials on every what is it, the
center label?
Yeah, the label of the record.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Because I think back then people would trade records and they'd be like, wait, no, that's my record. Like, give it back.
Yeah. And my father had a brother, and I think he didn't want that to get confused, and so that he has proof that it is his record. But more crucial in your musical upbringing was an uncle of yours. What kind of guy is or was he?
Unfortunately, he's not the best man ever. So I don't have many nice things to say about him. But he did love music.
Yeah.
He gave me my first Led Zeppelin CDs, and they always were playing music over at their house. And he played the bass, and then like bought a bass for his son, who's my cousin, obviously. And we were just kind of all getting into music around the same time, me and my cousin. And so yeah, when I got a CD player for the first time, he gave me one of my first CDs. It was Led Zeppelin 4, and so Mom had Led Zeppelin 1 on vinyl, but he may have given me 1 and 4 on CD. And I think that, along with like Nirvana and maybe a Metallica CD, might have been my first CDs.
Yeah. There is never a way around Nirvana, right? Nirvana is
not.
It's always when I have those talks here, I realize what a cultural impact that band had, and that still younger generations are still listening to Nirvana and discovering Nirvana.
They definitely had a huge impact.
Yeah. But talking about Nirvana, what was that a thing that you liked, the whole grunge thing?
Oh yeah,
Pearl Jam, Soundgarden.
I loved all of it.
Yeah.
I think Nirvana was my first CD from all of that, and then it went on to then I discovered the Melvins. I was a big Alice in Chains fan.
Yeah.
Soundgarden. I was learning early that I liked heavy guitar.
Yeah.
So,
But how did it look like with friends? Did you have like friends that mutually enriched you in matters of music? That you?
I had one friend from grade school who had 2 older brothers.
Mhm.
And one of them was pretty cool. The oldest brother was pretty cool and would turn her on to lots of cool music. And so through her, I learned about like the Beastie Boys for the first time.
Yeah.
I was like, Beastie Boys. I heard Smashing Pumpkins for the first time. Jane's Addiction for the first time. Stuff that he had that he kind of would turn her on to. And then we were always exchanging music. She was really into music and I was really into music. And so we were like discovering things around the same time. But in terms of like the girls at school and stuff, they were all into nothing that I was into. Like I didn't really know that many girls who were getting into rock.
Yeah. Did you? But did you and your best friend did you make each other mixtapes once in a while?
Yeah, she and I made mixtapes, and then I had another friend, a set of friends. They were sisters, and one was in my grade, and then one was in a grade above us. So they were like 18 months apart or whatever, and they're great. The older one, Catherine, she and I had a real. We were both like getting into heavy metal. I remember that she used to tape Headbangers Ball. And then we'd watch it on tape. And I'd spend the night over at their house a lot. And we'd just stay up all night watching MTV and Headbangers Ball. And I think.
Well, was MTV your main source for discovering new music?
That was, yes. Yeah. Because I myself didn't have older siblings.
Yeah. But what about magazines, or what about certain shows on the radio? If there's like, maybe there was like small stations,
so
not necessarily radio.
There was like a college station when I was a kid, but that wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't even know about it. Or they were playing stuff that was so underground, it was like over my head.
Yeah.
You know, like MTV was my sole source.
Yeah.
For sure. And like whatever the mainstream rock radio stations were. Like I remember, you know, they're all the radio songs that like maybe I wasn't a huge fan of like the artist or the band or whatever, but I knew all these songs because the radio would always be on. Usually in the car, like I said.
Headbangers Ball, that show on MTV that premiered actually on April 18th, 1987. And it was airing rather late at night. And I remember Vanessa Warwick doing that show, but you probably had a different VJ back then
Ricky
in
Rackman.
America. Ricky Rackman?
Yes.
Who's that?
Oh man, Ricky Rackman. Everyone from the States who used to watch MTV knows that he was some LA guy.
Yeah.
And he was kind of like a hair metal guy, I think. And then he got the gig. I think he might have been a concert promoter or a DJ or something, and was friends with maybe some of the guys in Guns N' Roses. I think, but he got the gig. I think someone else did Headbangers Ball first, if I'm not mistaken, but I can't remember who. My main memory is of is Ricky Rackman.
But the thing about Headbangers Ball is that it didn't only focus on hair metal, because, well, especially in the 90s, there was a whole like music shift going on, and there were lots of new bands coming up, and I think that thrash metal was also important on the show. There was the Thrash 3 or something happening. back in the day?
I remember, I mean, just MTV in general, like not just Headbangers Ball. I would watch anything that was on MTV.
Yeah.
But that's when it was just music. It was like kind of before they started doing all of the TV shows. They had a few but they were really cool and really weird. Like Eon Flux and like
Kids in the Hall.
Was that on MTV?
Was it Kids in the Hall? I think so, yeah. I saw it. I also saw cartoons on MTV.
Yeah, I mean they had some really cool weird cartoons. They had something called Just Say Julie, which was hilarious. And just cool.
Beavis and Butthead, of course.
Yeah, and Beavis and Butthead was huge. I think I heard Danzig for the first time on Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, this is awesome.
But you mentioned that you at some point realized that you like heavy guitars. Can you explain why you were so drawn to heavy music?
I guess the first heavy thing I heard was Zeppelin, you know, in terms of like a heavy guitar, and then Guns N' Roses, and which to me at the time was heavy, and then Ozzy Osbourne was huge, and I loved Ozzy, and then through Ozzy, then I discovered that he had this other band called Black Sabbath. And once I heard Black Sabbath, everything in my life changed.
Can you remember when and where and how you heard it?
You know, I've been asked that question before and I can't remember.
Yeah.
It may have been in the car with my mom and it being on the radio, and she may have even said, "Oh, this is Black Sabbath." And it would have been like Iron Man or something, you know, like one of those obvious tracks. But I can't remember. But once I heard Sabbath, it was just like I was obsessed. I was completely obsessed with them. And then anything with heavy guitar. And I think I was just so curious about it.
Yeah.
And I was curious about the energy behind it. I was just drawn to it.
And you are actually saying that kind of it's your favorite band of all, right?
Sabbath is.
Nail it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, Black Sabbath is my favorite band of all time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it possible for you to mention a favorite album by them, or would you say like now it's like
it's really hard,
5 or 6?
Yeah, I mean, I even liked Technical Ecstasy a little bit, but it's not as good as the ones before it. Even like Heaven and Hell is good, but the first, through Sabotage, I don't know what my favorite one is. Maybe sometimes I'm like, oh, the first one's my favorite. And then sometimes I'll say Volume 4 is my favorite, or Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is my favorite. I have phases, but I don't. Each one has its own bit of amazingness to it.
Yeah.
And none of them sound exactly the same. I mean, the first record and the Paranoid album are very similar. I mean, just because they were very close together in time, and it was early on in their writing, but they're all great.
Yeah. Greensboro, where you grew up, it's the third biggest city in North Carolina with around 300,000 people living there now.
I didn't even know that.
You were probably 100,000 less when you grew up there. But how many? How was it growing up there, spending your teenhood in the city? Were there places where you could buy records, where you could hang out, where you actually did hang out?
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to do in that city, but there were a couple of record stores that I would go to. My mom would take me to, or then I would go to. There was a CD store that I think had some vinyl called Spin City. That was kind of near where we lived. And then there was a really cool old vintage record store that just sold secondhand records and tapes. And that place was awesome. And I can't remember the name of it. It was near the UNCG, and my mom used to take me there. And they would sometimes have a bunch of old posters just like in a bin that were either free or $1. And I got some really cool old promo posters from that bin, like Swans. I didn't even know who Swans were at the time, but I was like, this just looks so rad that I just want this. And then I discovered them later. And that's where I got a lot of my classic rock. Because it was cheap. No one cared about vinyl at the time. Yeah. And I got all my Sabbath records at this one place. I got all the Zeppelin records, all the Sabbath. I think I started getting Priest. Anything that looked cool that was like $5 or less, I would just buy. Yeah. You know?
How cool did you look back then?
Not so cool.
Not so cool. No.
I mean, it was the 90s, so
but it could be like either that you were kind of a grungy kid, or that you tried to dress up like the artists you liked.
I was kind of a grungy kid, for sure. Like, it had that alternative grungy 90s look, like kind of baggy jeans, but not like super baggy, kind of oversized t-shirts, like weird like crystals and stuff, and then I got some Docs, and I looked like an alternative kid for sure.
But sometimes you get lucky and there is a cool, I don't know, record store or a semi-cool record store in a mall where you can hang out. Did that happen to you?
Yes, there was. I think it was Four Seasons Town Center is the name of the mall.
Okay.
And there was the record store in there. I don't think they had records. I think they just had CDs and tapes. But I would always hit that up. And then there was like a surf skate shop. And I would always go in there because it's like cute boys worked there. Sure. So I always wanted to like go in there. And then there was some cool, like, it's not so cool. It was cool then, but like Journeys that sold Doc Martens. It was like one of the first stores to carry Doc Martens, like like in a mall setting, whereas before I think they were harder to get. But grunge had come to suburbia, baby. So I was there ready for it. And me and my girlfriends, we used to hang out at the mall. We'd put on a tons of makeup and lie about our age and say I'm 17. I'm 18. I'm 18.
So you were those mall rats, right?
Total mall rat.
Yeah.
That, and there was a place downtown, or not really downtown, or there was a store downtown called Glitters. And downtown back then was like, had not yet been revitalized. It was just kind of nothing there. It was run down. It was like dangerous in the 80s. It was kind of derelict in the 70s and 80s. And then just wasn't happening much in the 90s. It wasn't until maybe 20 years ago that the city kind of revamped that whole downtown area. But anyway, Glitters was a cool place. It was like, smelled like incense. They sold water pipes. You weren't allowed to say the word bong.
Yeah.
They sold water pipes and like hippie stuff, but they also sold like punk and metal shirts and patches and pens.
Yeah, pins.
And like posters and cool tapestries, and I just like decked out my room with like everything from that store. I love that store. They had great band shirts too. Yeah. And I still have a Corrosion of Conformity shirt from that store, and a Misfit shirt. Those are the two shirts that have survived.
That's pretty neat.
And a Sabbath shirt that survived. Everything else, nothing else survived.
And that's all long before Hot Topic, guys.
It was long before Hot Topic.
Yeah. But how did it look like with concerts in Greenboro? Did bands have, I don't know, did they stop by sometimes?
Yeah, there was like some house shows that like I wasn't really allowed. I had really strict parents. I wasn't really allowed to go out
Mhm.
until I was older. So I had like a strict curfew. I didn't have a car. So I had to kind of spend the night with my friends to stay out late. But anyway, to answer your question, there were some shows. We would go to a few. Like I saw Buzz Oven when I was maybe 15.
Okay, that's pretty early.
Yeah. There was this one club that it's called Somewhere Else Tavern, just a tiny, tiny little place. And this guy named Burley
Yeah.
ran the joint. And he was this big dude who wore overalls with no shirt, and he had long red hair and a big beard. And he looked the part, and his name was Burley.
Just for the explanation, Buzz Oven is a sludge metal band from the South.
From North Carolina.
North Carolina, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
did you know them before, or did you just go there because there was something happening and then they played?
Some friends of ours knew who they were. Some older guys in a band. They were like, "Oh, Buzz Oven's coming to town. We gotta go to that."
Yeah.
And so then I checked them out. I guess maybe listened to this guy Jamie. Maybe played it for me, and I just wanted to go, and I went, and they were so scary and loud. And one of them opened up with like the riff to maybe Supernaut.
Yeah.
Or Into the Void, one of the two, I can't remember. And I remember being like, oh my God, they like Black Sabbath. That's so cool. And they were so brutal and scary. I was just, they were so angry too. And by the time I was like becoming a teenager, I was pretty angry.
Mhm.
I had a lot of like depression issues, and I had some anger issues. And I was this kind of music spoke to me.
Yeah. Were you already aware of the concept of sludge metal, which is kind of a regional thing from the South, kind of like this?
I did not.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I hadn't heard I Had God yet.
Yeah.
I mean, Buzz Oven were just the local or they're regional. You know, I knew Corrosion of Conformity. I was a huge Corrosion of Conformity fan. But they were just brutal, and I didn't quite understand it, but I really liked it. It was really angry, and it was loud.
Can you remember what your very first show was that you went to?
I mean, probably just some really bad local bands, because there's plenty of them.
Yeah.
But the first proper concert I went to was Danzig.
That's the first proper concert you went to?
Yes.
Hallelujah.
It was amazing.
How did you end up on the Danzig show? Where did he play?
He played in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's like an hour and 45 minutes east of Greensboro.
Yeah. And did I don't know,
and my mom let me go with my boyfriend at the time. She trusted him. He was older than me and had a car.
Yeah.
And she knew how much I loved Danzig.
Yeah.
So she let me go.
Yeah.
And it was a fairly innocent trip. I was so stoked to just see Danzig. Like I behaved.
Yeah.
You know, and it was incredible.
I believe so.
Yeah, it was so good. It was so loud.
Up there, he's hanging on the wall, the Danzig.
I love you, Glenn Danzig.
Yeah.
You're the best.
Did you ever meet him?
No.
No. Would you like to meet him?
I don't know.
Yeah. I wouldn't know either.
I don't know. I love his music.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I need to meet him, but I do love his music.
I once did a telephone interview with him. A phoner. A phoner.
A phoner.
And he was quite funny.
I think I would like to meet him ultimately. He had a big impact on me.
Yeah.
On my songwriting. I love Danzig. I love the Misfits. I love Samhain.
Yeah.
But especially Danzig and the Misfits.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand earplugs or anything like that. So it was so loud. My ears rang for 3 days. It was almost too loud, you know? I was just like, oh my God, it's so loud, but it's so awesome.
I mean, you're in a very loud band yourself for years now. Did it ever affect your ears, or did you at some point start wearing earplugs?
I, at some point, started to wear earplugs,
Yeah.
but I had already done a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So in the older I get, the deafer I am, for sure. But I'm very careful now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, besides the Danzig show, did it occasionally happen that you traveled longer distances to see certain shows at a point where you were allowed to, or where you maybe could drive a car yourself?
I never had a car. So not until I was well into college. So that made it difficult. I always had to like convince someone else to drive,
Yeah.
or basically convince someone else to drive.
Yeah.
So we would go to Raleigh a few times, because Raleigh had bigger shows.
Yeah.
Some stuff would come to Greensboro, but not a lot. And then when I went to Savannah for college, that's a small city, very super small. So I would try to convince people to drive to Atlanta or Jacksonville to shows, and we would do that all the time. We would drive there and then drive back the same night, and then go to class the next morning. Be totally
Devastated
yeah,
and tired.
no sleep.
Yeah.
But I did it back then.
Yeah.
Like we would go to Atlanta and Jacksonville. I saw some cool bands there.
What bands?
I saw the Damned,
Yeah.
like on one of their early reunions, the Misfits reunion, early on with that singer Michael Graves, which I did not like, but it was cool to see them play. We saw, I think I just saw the Descendants, Subhumans, any kind of like old band that was getting back together. I wanted to go see.
Yeah.
I was really into the Estrus Records band, so like the Makers, I was into them. They played in Raleigh, and I went to that show.
How come that you discovered the Estrus roster? Because Estrus is a pretty cool 90s-ish garage rock label.
It was through a friend of mine I was hanging out with one summer. He really knew those bands well, and he turned me on to a lot of that stuff, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. And then when I went to college, that band Man or Asterman would play Savannah a lot, because I think they were living in Atlanta at the time. I know they're from Birmingham, Alabama, but I think they had moved to Atlanta, and they were great. I was really into the surf rock stuff.
Yeah.
And that's when I started my
Then they
first
also
band,
had-
the Flies.
Yeah.
It was like kind of garagey surf punk.
Let's talk about the Flies in a second. We already talked about that you were kind of a grungy kid with like
I
baggy shirt.
loved Alice in Chains
Yeah.
and Soundgarden. They were like my favorites.
But at some point you were a proper teenage punk, weren't you? Like,
Not until I was really into metal until,
yeah.
and I love Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah,
I saw Nine Inch Nails in high school. And I was really into them and Skinny Puppy.
Yeah.
And I loved Pantera.
Yeah.
And Metallica, of course. I loved Metallica. It wasn't until I was maybe 18
Yeah.
that I started listening to punk.
Okay.
And then, with the exception of like the Misfits,
Yeah.
and maybe Minor Threat, because Fugazi was really, really, really big, and I love Fugazi as well. So it's like I listened to Fugazi, Danzig, like COC Blind, like all of those records before I discovered their previous punk records, like Minor Threat, Misfits, early COC. So I wasn't a proper punk until like I cut my hair short and I was maybe indicted blonde. And I think that I was like 18.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to because I once saw a photo of you. You posted that. Like,
yeah. And I was 17 or 18.
Yeah. But when you were 16, you started learning the guitar. What was your motivation? Like, when was the point where you thought like, I gotta get myself a guitar. I gotta learn that.
I wanted to, maybe when I was 13, I wanted to, but like I didn't get a guitar until I was 16.
Yeah.
After lots of pleading.
Yeah. Weren't there any possibilities in school to learn an instrument?
No.
Okay.
No. There was no, music class was very limited at my school, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I got a guitar. My mom got me a guitar, and I started taking a few lessons. But it was, Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to learn how to play these chords. Like, how do I play a power chord? That's cool. I'm good.
So
Iron Man was the first song I learned.
Okay, that would have been my next question. Actually, yeah. Iron Man. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, iconic riff.
Yeah, it's easy. It's a good beginner riff.
Yeah.
Then
just
you could
fun to play.
Super fun to play. I didn't have an amp, so I plugged in I was able to rig my stereo. I bought some special cable at the hardware. Like there was a place called Radio Shack back then.
The Radio Shack, the legendary.
The legendary Radio Shack. I went to the Radio Shack and got some special cable where I could plug my guitar into the back of my stereo. And it would come out of the speakers, but you couldn't play it loud because it would like blow the speakers. But it would make a sound. And I was just like, I remember playing Iron Man over the phone to my friend Catherine. And she made fun of me for years. She was like, yeah, I remember when you played that song for me over the phone. It was like, dun, 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 na, na. And I was like, yeah, dude. I was like, and she was like, yeah, sounds great.
But have you been, and I mean, you are a pretty good guitarist by now. Have you been an avid learner? Like, did you when you finally had a guitar and you finally figured out where to put your fingers, that you rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed?
I was always more interested about crafting a sound in a song than I was about theory and technique. For better or for worse.
Yeah.
Like my technique could be better, my theory could be better, but I was just more interested in creating sounds, cool sounds, and songs and riffs, and just crafting the song. I remember I got a flanger pedal, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. When I got a flanger pedal, I didn't know how to use it or what to do. I just would turn it on and turn the knobs and make sounds, and I thought it was just the best thing.
Yeah, and it plays an important role in what you do in Kylesa later on.
Oh yeah, the flanger is a big deal.
Yeah,
love a flanger.
But your first band was called The Flies. There are a couple of bands actually being called The Flies.
Absolutely, it's not original, but
and I don't know. I couldn't find out if you ever recorded or released anything with The Flies.
We recorded twice. We recorded a 4-track recording ourselves.
Yeah,
and then we recorded at a local studio and just banged it out in a few hours. And I have a DAT tape of that, and then we never released it. We were on a couple local compilations, and then later I had that DAT tape transferred to CD. So I have a master of it somewhere. But it was never released.
But with whom did you have that band, and how did The Flies sound like?
It was cool. It was super short-lived, and it was with a bunch of other art students. So we had that artiness to it, and everyone was different, but it just kind of and I was with some older kids, so the drummer was a junior, and then the singer and the other guitar player had already graduated. So and I was a freshman.
Yeah.
I'd just moved to town. And we would practice at my friend Will's house. And it was my first foray into songwriting. And I was, like I said, I was really into garage rock and garage punk. I loved the Cramps. And I was still learning how to play. I mean, I'm still pretty young, 16 wasn't that long ago. So, it was my first time really playing with other people. I had a little band back in Greensboro before I went to college, but I played bass in that band. And I didn't write any of the songs. They just needed a bass player, so I just hopped in. But The Flies was something I wrote. I wrote those songs with the other guitar player, and it was very garagey, very surfy. And then the singer was like really into indie rock and loved Guided by Voices and the Pixies and all this stuff I hadn't heard of before, but was really cool. And his lyrics were fun and quirky, and his vocals were cool and quirky. And I wish I had some of it to play you. Some of it was more punk, and some of it was straight surf, and some of it was just kind of garagey. But I would say it was mid tempo. It wasn't super fast, and it was just kind of like rocking.
Uh-huh. When it comes to playing the guitar, whom do you idolize? I mean, besides Tony Iommi, maybe.
Tony Iommi for sure. David Gilmour. John McGeoch. Those are like top three. John McGeoch, he's like the post-punk god guitar player. He played with Susie and the Banshees. He was in Magazine. And then he did session work for various artists. But he just had the very talented and just the coolest style and tones, everything. Just really unique. I never knew his name till later. I just was like, whoever's that guy in Magazine, he's great. And then I found out that he was also in Susie and the Banshees, and he's been one of my favorites for many years. You can't really hear it you can hear it if you know his work. You can hear it in some of my playing. It's not as obvious as maybe Tony Iommi, but it's very much there. I would say Geordie Walker from Killing Joke. Billy Duffy from The Cult. Love The Cult. Those are all up there. I'm probably forgetting someone just because I'm on the spot here. There's lots of great guitarists out there who I really like. But those are the ones that stick out.
So straight out of high school, you moved to Savannah to attend Savannah College of Art and Design. So what were your plans back then?
I wanted to be an artist, and I was like, I have to start a band, and I want to learn as much as I can about art.
Yeah.
That was my plan.
Did you finish art school?
It did.
Yeah. So with a Master of Arts, or what?
I got a bachelor, a BFA, it's called Bachelor of Fine Arts, a BFA in photography and graphic design.
Okay. So the whole
So
thing.
I got my degree. Kylesa had started already, but I said there's no way I'm not going to finish school. So I was like, I can tour once I finish school. And they were like, okay with waiting. So Yeah.
But so Savannah is over 300 miles deeper in the south. And it's a 5-hour car ride from your hometown.
Yeah, more like 6.
More.
Yeah, it's a drive.
So how did life change for you in the new surrounding?
It was very different. I experienced like racism for the first real time.
Even though I think Greensboro has a racism problem.
Yes,
right?
yes, but I didn't experience it
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Whereas in Savannah, it was just more out in the open, maybe. I don't know. I never. And reverse racism on both sides. Like, I'm not liked because I just saw it on both sides. I could feel the negative vibes I was getting from the local African American community, and only in certain scenarios. It certainly wasn't like that with everybody.
Yeah.
But Savannah is kind of a fucked up town. It's like totally crooked. The mayors always end up in jail for some sort of fucked up thing. They're all in bed together, both sides. And they just aren't really caring about the city. It's just about making money. And it was like the Wild West back then too. Like, I mean, gunshots all the time. You could drink on the streets there, and everyone is wasted drunk all the time. I didn't even need a fake ID. Like, no one would ever card me. I would just go in, which was great. But it was like the Wild West.
Yeah.
It was it was crazy back then. It's not as wild as it used to be. But
it sounds also like.
But it was fun. I mean, there was an art school.
Yeah.
I mean, this is when SCAD was more of a fine art school and less of a pathway to Disney or whatever. It was more of a fine art school, and so I was meeting all these artists, and I was so thrilled to be creating and collaborating with other artists. And then I met these musicians and met people from the local scene, like Philip. And he and Brian Duke from the band Damad, well, they had that band Damad, and then they booked shows. And then I would go to all of the shows. Some of them were all ages, some of them were at bars. But like I said, they didn't really, the law was back then you could be 18 to go to a bar. And so I could go to most of the bars.
Yeah.
There's only a few that I couldn't get into without a fake ID.
So it seems that city also had a fertile ground for subculture.
It did.
Counterculture.
It did, even though it was small. But it was cool because there was lots of like art parties happening, underground shows. I learned a lot there.
You just mentioned Philip Cope. He's your guitarist and singer partner in Kylesa.
Yes.
And at some point you must have met him for the very first time. Can you remember when that was?
I do. It was pretty cute. I was still in high school, and I was doing a summer school program down there.
Okay.
Because I was thinking about going to this college.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure I liked it. I just saw a flyer, and it was Damad and this band Grief and someone else. And it was at some motorcycle place. And I went there. It was like super sketchy. I think I was with this guy at the time. I don't know how I got there, but I was wearing a Black Sabbath shirt, and Philip was wearing a Black Sabbath shirt, and I just was like, "Hi, nice Black Sabbath shirt." And he goes, "You too." And I was like, "Thanks." I was like, "What's your name?" He's like, "Philip." I'm like, "Nice. I'm Laura." And that was it. And then I saw his band, and I was like, that was crazy brutal. And then I went back to finish high school, and then I came down the following year, and then we met in Forsyth Park. He was skating with a bunch of people, and I was with this guy Sean. He was the first punk I met in Savannah, and we were hanging around and jamming a little bit, and then we rolled up on a bunch of skaters, and he was like, "Oh, that's Philip, I'll introduce you." And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's the guy in the Black Sabbath shirt."
Besides making music, you always helped out making flyers for shows. You, I think, booked your own shows at some point.
Yeah,
or
I booked punk shows in Savannah, like just DIY punk shows,
Yeah.
punk and metal.
Yeah.
And then I booked Kylesa for the first 5 years
Okay.
of the band when we were just doing it all ourselves.
Yeah.
I just got thrown into that position, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I figured it out.
But you did a pretty neat job, I guess, because Kylesa early on, I mean, as soon as you finished up your studies, but early on you started touring like almost everywhere.
Pretty right away, yeah.
Yeah.
I did have some help because Philip had already been on tour a bunch with his old band. So they had a lot of those contacts. And I would email or call all of those people. And then it was just a series of networking. They'd know. He'd be like, "Oh, talk to Robert in the Bay Area and talk to this person in this area, and then they can help you fill in the gaps." And we all kind of did that for one another. Like, "Hey, do you know anyone in Nashville?" Or, "Hey, do you know anyone in Milwaukee or whatever." And but it was super time consuming. I was on the computer a lot, emailing and trying to figure out how to get from point A to point B and somehow to get money from people.
DIY style.
Yeah.
But you also created album covers or album artworks.
Did.
Some bands. You took photos of bands that ended up in records.
Definitely. Lots of photos. I did a lot of photos for bands and documented our travels, but I did some like promo photos for bands or live photos. A lot have ended up in records, various records over the years. Yeah.
Oh. But we not really have talked about the beginning of Kylesa yet. And
Okay.
in 2001, so the Savannah sludge metal crust punk outfit Damad, they split up, and out of its ashes, the members founded a band named Kylesa, and they asked you to be part of it.
Yes.
Can you remember how that came about? I mean, we now know that you got to know Philip, but when was the point where he actually came up to you and said, "Hey, do you want to be part of my new band?"
I will tell you.
Already.
Okay. I remember Philip and I would jam a little bit, because we were friends. I was also friends with his girlfriend at the time. So I spent a lot of time hanging out with them. We were kind of like a trio. We'd hang out all the time. And they were like kind of my best friends. And I was also friends with Brian. He was in Damad. He was the bass player. And, Phil and I just jammed a lot together. And I was kind of like, "Oh, I really want to start a band. I can't find anyone to play band, be in a band with." And I had seen them on their summer tour in 2000. I was up in New York doing an internship with a photographer up there and sleeping on my cousin's couch. And Damad came through, and I could tell that I was like, they're probably going to break up soon because you could just feel the vibes. I was such good friends with Philip and Brian that I just kind of knew. And so fast forward to that fall or winter, I was hanging out with Philip and his girlfriend. And I guess Brian was there. Yeah, Brian was there. We were hanging out in like their his back patio. And that's when they were like, "Hey, so we're breaking up Damad and we're starting a new band and we want you to play second guitar. Are you interested?" And I was like, "Yes, totally interested."
Were you afraid also?
Yes, I was terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, I just mentioned crust punk, or I described Damad as crust punk, and while you are a professional for underground movements and subcultures, could you please explain in how far the crust punk scene differs from, well, the ordinary punk scene? What is crust punk? Because actually I got to know about crust punk through learning about Kylesa back in the day.
Well, I'm not a proper historian, but crust punk kind of began with, I don't know who, first of all, I'm not sure who coined the term.
Yeah.
So don't know.
Yeah.
But it kind of began with Amoebics
Mm-hmm.
and Axe Grinder. And so it was like the ethos of punk and a lot of the punk sounds, but instead of like the distortion was different. So this distortion is more metallic sounding.
Yeah.
And there's some metal influence.
Yeah.
You know, for sure there's some metal influence.
Awesome.
But the lyrics are oftentimes political, and the movement is still in the punk realm. Like it was still DIY booking and kind of with a do it yourself attitude, like,
because
so it started in England, I would say,
and it is a whole kind of different scene. It's like, I mean, like there's like dreadlocks involved, like all in black, and there's a little bit of white on them, and that's like part of the patches, the names on those, the band names on the patches. But that's
it was different than, say, street punk.
Yeah.
When you think of street punk, you think like Casualties.
Yeah.
You know, so it was
and
totally
Mohawks
and
and stuff.
Mohawks.
Yeah.
And so it was totally different scene.
Yeah.
There's always some crossover. Like
Yeah.
I go to both shows.
Yeah.
And especially if you're in a small town, you just go to all the shows.
Yeah.
And you're not that picky.
Mm-hmm.
And then so it started in the UK, and then like Nausea would have been the first American crust punk band.
Yeah.
And it sounds, more metallic than, say, the Descendants.
But what about the whole discharge realm?
So and
the
this
D-beat stuff.
the D beat's totally different. It's a whole, but it's like still lumped in with the whole crust punk
hand
thing.
in hand, kind of.
Kind of does.
Yeah.
Kind of does. But
Yeah.
D-beat's sonically a little different.
Yeah.
But still a lot of crust can be D-beat and vice versa.
Yeah.
And Brian and Philip were really involved in that scene because it was, I guess, like pretty big in the 90s. And of course they had all the records. So then I started listening to those records because those guys turned me on to all kinds of music. So I got really, really into Amoebics and Nausea and this band Sacrilege and Axe Grinder and there was this band from Columbia, South Carolina called Anti-Schism that was also very cool. Put out some really wicked 7-inches. And Scott from that band was in Damad for a while. And he's still around playing music. But I got heavily, it made sense because I loved punk and I loved metal.
Yeah. So
it was just a kind of a blending of the two. I got really into it. I had my patches and my little crusty look for a while.
What role did a band like New Roses play for you?
They were hugely influential on Philip and Brian, less so on me. It is just a taste thing. I liked The Word Is Law a lot.
Yeah.
And then Souls of Zero thought was cool, but other bands had more influence and impact on me than Neurosis. But I will say that they heavily influenced Philip and Brian.
But Kylesa always maintained a swampy, sludgy metal sound, and in that matter, I mentioned that earlier. It's kind of a regional trait, common to quite some underground metal bands from the south. Please elaborate how.
I think a lot of that has to do with Philip.
Yeah.
he really took me under his wing.
Yeah.
And I went from being in a garage surf band to having to down tune my guitar and play this heavy ass shit.
Yeah.
Which I was totally into. I was like, well, I love Sabbath. Like, I'm totally down.
Yeah.
To get weird.
Yeah. How would you explain? How is it possible to create a sludgy, swampy metal sound? What is necessary for that?
You need to live somewhere where the heat is oppressive, and it's just oppressive.
Yeah.
So it's too hot to play fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
too hot to play fast.
It's just too hot to play fast.
Yeah.
No, I think a lot has to do with Philip. I mean, I Hate God. They're the OGs.
Yeah.
And I guess I started getting into them when I was in college, when I was down there. Because they really fused the punk and the sludge. They kind of took what Black Flag did on My War and expanded.
Yeah.
And that band had a big, because Philip's old band, they used to tour with all these bands. They used to tour with all the New Orleans sludge bands that were around. I think, they used to book Buzz Oven in Savannah. I saw Buzz Oven a handful of times in Savannah over the years. So, yeah, I think you need to be down tuned at least to D, and at least preferably lower, and nod a little bit to Sabbath, but not in the stoner rock way, and not a little also, but you gotta like nod to like, I don't know, like it's a little bit of punk, it's a little bit of hardcore, it's a little bit of like traditional metal.
Yeah.
And with Kylesa, when we started, we made a pact that we would never, because we're such music fans, that we would never limit ourselves to influence. Like, we would listen to each other and listen to each other's ideas. As long as the music remained heavy, we didn't care where what kind of tangent it went on, and we were welcome to try and experiment and do whatever. Like, it was really an art collective. We were really serious about the creativeness behind it, and trying new things, being experimental, being like psychedelic, being doomy, being thrashy, being progressive.
Yeah.
We were just really trying to push the envelope.
Yeah.
And not have an indie rock influence. I mean, we're huge Fugazi fans, huge Built to Spill fans. At least I don't know if Brian was into Built to Spill, but I was really into Built to Spill, and I know Philip likes them too. But like, I think the 2 bands or the 3 bands we all agreed on back in the early days of the first lineup was Black Sabbath, Pink Floyd, and Fugazi. Those are the 3 bands that we all liked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The CDR for the first Kylesa album was finished in 2001, and the album got a proper release in 2002 on a hardcore punk label called Prog, and it features an artwork by legendary Pusshead, Pusshead, right? Pusshead, that's Pusshead. So, who's most famous for his works for Metallica and Misfits? How did this come together?
Well, he had done Damad's album.
Yeah.
And he had done a 7-inch for them and was friendly with Brian. Brian was the social guy of Damad who would book the tours and talk with everyone.
Yeah.
So those 2 were friendly. And Brian passed away early on, like after a week after our first show. He passed away in his sleep. That very young man. He was epileptic.
Oh.
And he had a seizure, and it killed him.
Yeah.
And that's we at first we were like, oh well, band is over. Like, we're not doing this. But we decided we had already recorded the record or most of it.
Yeah.
So we were like, Brian, this is Brian's last works. Like, we want to release it. Someone will release it. Prank said they would release it, and then Pusshead said he'd be happy to do the artwork. Yeah. So that's how that came about. Yeah. It was really their previous relationship, and he had a relationship with Ken, because that label was based in San Francisco, and Pusshead lived in San Francisco.
But there's everything already there on that first record. It's totally Kylesa already.
Very raw.
Complex songs, raw songs, but like it's like thunder rolling down the mountain into the swamps, whatever. But you came from musically, you came from a different world, playing surfy garage rock. Did you have to exercise a lot to be able to keep up and be now part of that band and play those songs?
I wasn't used to drop tunings. That was the biggest obstacle, because I was used to fretting a certain way, and I just wasn't used to drop tunings. So that took a while to get used to. I also had to totally change my gear, because I had an SG at the time that would not tune down. I sold that guitar and got the Guild SG, which was had a little more heft to it, and tuned down, sort of. It did its best. And I was so eager to play that I didn't even think about the difficulty of it. And like, the riffs weren't that difficult.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, it was okay. But we'll say that we practiced a lot. We spent a lot of time in the rehearsal space.
There's a 7-inch before the album introducing Kylesa to the world, or at least a small underground bubble at that time. The B-side of that single is a cover of a song called Judgment Day by The Farts, a punk band from 80s Seattle that Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses played drums for in 1982 to 1983. Can you remember why you picked that certain song?
I was obsessed with this band called The Accused.
Yeah.
I was going through a serious thrash metal phase.
Yeah.
And The Accused, I think Blaine was in the Farts. I think he was the singer of the Farts. Some of those guys were in the Farts. And so Judgment Day was a Fart song that then was they re-recorded it and was on an Accused album. So we're covering the version that's on the Accused album.
Yeah.
However, it was a Fart song. And I was just so into that band. And then that's the song that we all agreed on.
So you brought that actually up.
Yeah, I was like, can we please do The Accused? And we had our friend Chris Bickle do guest vocals. And I remember when he and I got up there to sing the vocals, we hadn't even talked about it. He gets up there and sings like Nick Blinko from Reunion-Auftritt, and I was like, dude, you sound like Nick Blinko. I was like, this is so awesome. And he was like, yeah, I just thought it'd be cool to do that. And I was like, it rules. And we used to play it live early on. It was fun.
But
fun song.
7-inch vinyl and split releases with other bands, they both are important tools in your scene. And so you put out a couple of them on another single for actually a German label called Scorched Earth Policy. You covered Clutches by legendary New York crust punk band Nausea. Can you remember why you made that pick? Did you want to make people aware of the musical tradition you're following with Kylesa?
I don't think so. I just think we wanted to cover the song. I wanted to cover Nausea, and I think it's good to do cover songs. You learn from them, and also the audience knows them. At least the audience back then knew it.
Yeah.
I can't quite remember why we decided to do that one. I think I just liked the galloping riff. And it has the male and female vocal. And Philip and I were doing the male and female vocal thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Philip was a huge Nausea fan. He's the one that turned me on to them, so it made sense for us to do it.
And you still played to date, or at least it got back into your set list, because let's take a moment with Nausea. Roy Mayorga, he's the drummer in that band, and 30 years later, he is a legend. Roy played with Soulfly, Amoebics, Shelter, like in the live setup, Stone Sour, Hell Yeah, Ministry, and lots of others. So when Kylesa got back together in 2024, Roy Mayorga stepped behind the drum kit, while
Legend.
Nausea bass player John Jesse became also part of Kylesa. How did that feel to have them both on board now?
I felt like a little kid at Christmas. I was like jumping in my shoes. You know, I tell the story, and I'm just like, man, the stars just aligned.
Yeah.
It was just meant to be that the four of us should play together. You know, Philip and I had announced a couple of shows. I think maybe we announced Roadburn, but we didn't have a lineup yet.
Which is a brave thing.
Yeah. Well, we were like, we'll get it together.
You'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. Like it'll happen. I mean, we had a few ideas, but we were like, we'll put the band together. And John, I guess, saw that, and he hit me up on social media and said, "Hey, reporting for duty here. If you ever need a bass player for Kylesa, I'm your guy." And I was like, "What?
Are you sure?
Are you sure? What? What's happening right now?" And I wrote him back, and I was like, "Yeah, man. Just get Roy on drums, and we're off to the races." And so then he texts me, and he's like, "I'm calling Roy right now." And I was like, "Okay." And I was thinking, this is like whatever. I called, and then Roy called me the next day, because Roy and I kind of already knew each other, because from the Amoebic shows. And I had moved out to LA. We'd hung out a few times. So I think I already had his phone number. He called me, and he's like, I hear things. I was like, yeah, there's things. So we just talked. We had a lovely talk. The four of us talked and decided to do it.
Yeah.
And I remember calling Philip, and I was like, okay. I was standing outside, and I was like, all right. I was like, don't get your hopes up, but I just got off the phone with Roy Mayorga, and I've talked to John Jesse, and they might be in Kylesa. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I know it's insane. And he was like, oh my God. Yeah, it felt like giddy little kids. It was pretty rad. And when the four of us jammed together, it was sick.
Yeah.
It was like instant chemistry. They're lovely, lovely people, and great to play with. The chemistry's there, you know? We're cut from the same punk rock cloth.
Yeah.
It just works.
I'm very happy to hear that. And I am also very happy that I saw it by now already. And yeah, it works.
It really works.
Fine, yeah.
It really works.
Especially because, well, in 2006, I guess, when Kylesa released their third album, Time Will Fuse Its Worth, you started playing with two drummers live, and also on record.
Yeah.
I mean, economically, it's total madness.
Yeah.
But so why did you do it, and who inspired you in doing it?
Well, it was something Philip cooked up in the beginning. I was jamming with this guy, Tyler, who ended up being in our band later, years later. And Tyler and I kind of had a thing, and, you know, Christian from who was previously in Damad with Philip and Brian was going to be the drummer for Kylesa. And I remember talking, we were sitting around the table, and Tyler was hanging out. And Philip was like, hey, we really want to do this band with two drummers to just make it really heavy. Would you be interested? And Tyler declined. He was like, no, I can't do it. I can't for whatever reason. So we were just like, okay, no worries. And then we just went ahead with the one drummer and didn't really think about it. And then when our second drummer quit in 2005, we were left without a drummer. And we started jamming with Carl, who was in that band Unpersons, who were like my favorite Savannah band. Just so awesome.
I
And-
know them from having a split album.
They did a split with
Baroness.
Baroness.
Yeah.
But they have material before that that's rare, hard to find stuff, but it's really, really good. It's awesome. So they were totally ahead of their time. You know, they started in high school. You know, I've known them. I met them when they were in high school and I was like a freshman, you know. So anyway, they were still a band, but not very active. And Carl, we asked him to just jam with us so we could continue to write music. And he said, sure. He was also going to school. So he was busy. And we were jamming with them, and we loved jamming with him. He's so talented, and we asked him to be in the band, and he said, you know, I can't. I have to finish school. I don't think I want to tour. And we're like, okay. So we just kept playing with him, and we were like, he'll just be like our local guy to jam with. And we had kind of sent out word onto social media that we needed a drummer. So we started trying people out. And this guy, Jeff, who we found from Detroit, decided that he'd come down to try out. He tried out. He was really good. And then I think Philip might have had a trick up his sleeve. He was like, that's when Carl was like, at that same time, Carl decided he wanted to be in the band. He was like, okay, I have to finish school, but I want to be in the band because the chemistry was really good. And then at the same time, Jeff came down and we were like, well, this guy Jeff is really good. And he brought his drum kit. So we had the two kits in our rehearsal space. So we just said, let's just try this. Let's see how it sounds with two drummers. So Jeff came down thinking he was just going to be the drummer. And then we ended up having both of them as drummers. And that's when we started it.
Yeah.
We said, well, you know, what do you guys think? Do you feel comfortable doing this?
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, okay, let's do it. Yeah. And it was really cool. Sonically, it was really cool.
Yeah.
Financially, it did not make sense. Logistically, it did not make sense. But it sounded really cool. And I think the coolest double drumming we have is on Static Tensions. Because Carl was always our main guy, and Carl was with us for 10 years. I mean, when Philip and I decided to put the band back together, we did ask him.
Yeah.
And he just politely said no, that he's doing other things, which is totally cool. But you know, Carl was always our main guy, and we'd have like someone else kind of play second fiddle to him.
I also think that the drumming, like that the two drummers not always played exactly the same, but they differed somehow slightly to make it even like somehow weirder sounding, because you realize like, oh, this can't be by only one drummer, right?
That's definitely on purpose, because I've seen bands, like I saw a band recently, they had two drummers and they were literally playing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And like no nuance, no difference.
OCs.
I was not going to say that, but yes, it was them.
But that's, yeah.
And they were playing the exact same thing. And I was like, wow, what a waste.
Yeah.
So pointless to just do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. The Mavins do it differently. I mean,
Melvin
and Cody Willis,
they're great at it.
If I remember correctly, the first time I saw them play together, I think that they shared toms in the middle.
I feel like one of them
was set up as would be one big drum set and two drummers behind it.
I think their setup was kind of like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like that now. But I saw when they first did that on the Senile Animal tour, and it was massive.
Yeah.
It was killer.
What about Roy? Did he have to do certain preparations? Because loads of those songs he has to play now were like played by two drummers. Did he like have to melt it
Yes.
into like him being only like one guy behind the key?
Yeah, he had to pick and choose the dominant parts and then also put his creative spin on it. Which we wanted to give him that chance to do, but keep the songs the songs.
Yeah.
The songs and the beats. Carl wrote really memorable beats, and so the beats basically needed to stay the same and the parts stay the same, but we was like, you've got to make it sound like you have to take a two drummer situation and play it as one drummer. And I think he did a great job.
What I find interesting is that when you started playing again, well, everybody of you comes from totally different places in the States.
Yeah.
So you're not living close by and just could meet to rehearse those songs to be fit for going on tour. How did you manage to play like that first show on Roadburn Festival?
It was difficult. I mean, so we all had to do our homework at home. I had to it was easier for me and Philip just because of muscle memory. A lot of the muscle memory was still there. But these other guys, I had to break down the songs for John, the tunings, and some parts, like if the recording was muddy, he couldn't hear. I would listen to it and like make a little video and show him and send it to him just so he could see what was going on. But we all had to do our homework at home, and then we came together in LA in January. So Roadburn was in April. We came together in January for a week and rehearsed. Philip stayed with me. John stayed with Roy. And I rented, I got us a space where we had like a 6-hour block. And we just went in there every day for like a week. And we got a lot done then. And we did the same thing right before Roadburn in April. And I mean, so it's hard.
It's hard work.
I mean, we would be, if we were doing a regular tour or if we had regular rehearsals, it would definitely be easier. It's hard to kind of pick up and be like, okay, we have to play all these songs like we've been playing them together for so long.
So during Kylesa's career, you covered some more songs except for the two we just talked about. So for a Pink Floyd tribute, you covered Take Control for the Heart of the Sun. So what's to say about that one? You mentioned that this is one of the bands that you could all agree on.
So I think we did two Pink Floyd songs. We did Interstellar Overdrive and we did Set the Controls for Heart of the Sun.
Okay.
And I think one of them was for a CD compilation.
Set the Controls. Yeah, sorry. I just dropped a totally different title.
It's okay. I heard you and I let it slide.
Yeah.
I did not correct you.
I can't let it slide.
Yeah. It's Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, baby.
Of course.
That's what it is. Yeah. We were asked to be part of a CD compilation, and so we did Interstellar Overdrive, and then when we went into the studio to do that, we also did Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, and that was a song we played live a lot, because we were really, that would have been, we played it a lot in 2006, we played it a lot live before we recorded it. And then Corey quit the band, and then Corey was our bass player at the time, and then we went into the studio, and Jay Matheson, who owns the studio and happens to be a killer bass player, like favorite bass player is Geezer Butler, we were like, you want to record bass on these songs? And he's like, yep. I mean, he just got up there and did it, like a total pro. So he laid the bass down for those. And we just jammed it out in the studio, and it was a live staple for a long time. It was there was a part where we kind of improv'd, and we kind of let the song fall apart, and then we'd bring it back. It was fun. It was always a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
And we made it much heavier, of course.
Of course. Yeah, but it's also a good song for you to sing?
That's the first time I sang.
Yeah.
I think, other than the little bit on the first record, I stopped singing for whatever reason. And then we did that song, and I was like, well, I need to sing this. It needs to be sung, not screamed.
Then for a Black Flag tribute, you did a take on Black Coffee.
Yes.
Yeah. You are, I think, the most prominent band on that compilation.
Yeah, Cult Nation asked us to do it, and we were like, yeah, sure. And we just did it, and we recorded it super quickly. We had a bunch of friends from in town come in and sing the gang vocals, and it was fun. I haven't listened to that since we recorded it. Is it even available online? Is it? I don't even know.
Everything is available.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah,
it's there.
And then for a Nirvana tribute, you covered "Come As You Are." A kind of weird choice because it's such a popular song and not one of those like dirtier riff heavy songs.
I know. I wanted to do a different song, but there weren't that many left to choose from. So, but I love that intro riff so much. I was like, well,
because you're a big Killing Joke fan.
Yeah, because I'm a big Killing Joke fan. And I was like, well, let's do that song, and we'll just slow it down and make it like druggier.
Yeah. That's what you did with 2015 when you put out Exhausting Fire on the final Kylesa album. And there is a bonus track on there, and that's Black Sabbath's most famous song, Paranoid. A song which is a weird pick because like it is so like, yeah.
So there there's a story behind that.
Yes,
that was not
that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah. So, okay, definitely that was not our first choice to do that song. We were asked to be a part of this Black Sabbath compilation. And I wanted to do like a deep cut. I want to do like The Writ, or I wanted to do maybe Fairies Wear Boots, or I would have done Wicked World. I had lots of choices. Paranoid, other than Iron Man, was probably the least one I would want to do.
Yeah.
But the label that had the compilation, they're like, well, Paranoid is the only song that's left. And we were like, for real? We're like, okay, kind of like rolled our eyes, and we're like, okay. And then I kind of read through, so we recorded the song, and I was like, well, let's make it like Planet Caravan. Let's just slow it down and trip it out. Because, we've heard the punk versions of it.
Yeah.
We've heard like the fast versions have already been done a million times. Like, I have in my own record collection so many bands that have covered that song.
Yeah.
So I was like, how are we going to make this interesting and different? So I was like, oh, let's just trip it out and slow it down. And then I read through the contract that the record label had sent, and it was a shit contract. So we were like, we're not going to do this. So we pulled it, and then we just ended up using it as a bonus track on the album.
Okay.
Yeah, it's better than throwing it away.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because it is an interesting, different version of the song. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, why do it? Why try to do it the same? It's not going to be as good. It's already been done faster a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So,
in those 15 years between 2001 and 2016, you have been incredibly productive as a band. 7 albums, an array of small formats, a compilation with rarities. Volume 1, there has never been a Volume 2. You founded your own short-lived label named Retro Futurist, releasing a couple of like-minded artists. You toured the world. There wasn't a year going by where you didn't trip somewhere through Europe. So how did you keep up? How did you keep that up?
Well, I think that's why we broke up, because we were burned out. I was burned out.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And, I think Well, to get back to your question of how do we do it, when you're hungry for it, whatever it is, you just go. And, especially when you're young, you can just go on fumes. And Philip and I are really driven. I'm, I can speak for him. He's driven. I'm also I'm a very driven individual. And if I set my mind to it, I'm going to try my damnedest to make it work. And I really wanted to make Kylesa work. It was our baby. It was, we poured our heart and soul and all of our money, which wasn't much, into this. This thing, this monster, this juggernaut. And, Philip and I wrote well together. We write well together. We're good creative partners. And we're very different with our playing style, but they come together really nicely. And I think we enjoyed it. I really enjoy touring because I like to travel. I like experiencing different cultures. I've met some amazing people over in my travels. You, for example, I met many years ago from touring.
Yeah.
2008.
2008, yeah.
And I've been very lucky to have it as like a big life experience. It was a big chunk of my adult life. Big chunk. I mean, I started, like I said, when I was still in college. So then straight to touring, straight to rock and roll.
Yeah. I know it's hard to answer maybe, but what is your favorite Kylesa album? The one that you're most satisfied with in hindsight?
I think the one where it came together the best is probably Static Tensions. And I also think it has a better recording than some of the others.
Yeah. More transparent, less swampy.
Yeah, some of the early recordings are really muddy. They're just really muddy.
Yeah. Which is a problem because you are very happy and there is so much going on and it all blurs together once in a while.
Yeah. I mean, and we were recording all those records ourselves, and Philip was getting better and better with each one. And, when you have two drummers and you have a really low tuning, there's not a lot of space just in terms of frequency. So it's like, it's easy for it to get muddy like real fast.
Yeah.
We both know a lot more about how to record now. I mean, I had no idea how to do it. I'm still a novice myself, but Philip is pretty good. But I think that record and then I think Spiral Shadow is a close second. I think that was kind of the zenith of our songwriting and us being inspired. And then after that, I think Ultraviolet is good too, but that the way that came together, it wasn't easy because we didn't have like full members, and we had it was mainly myself, Philip, and Carl.
Yeah. But it shows in your set list that you are probably most satisfied with the songs on Static Tension, because there are regularly 6 songs of that in the set list. And I'm wondering, were Roy and John allowed to make their own picks and say, well, we like those songs a lot?
No, they weren't allowed. Because they like some of the newer ones, and it's like so the plan with the set list was like, we want to come out with like the fan favorite stuff, which is like mid-period Kylesa.
Yeah.
And next year we will change it up. Like we'll do, like I really want to do What Becomes an End off of Time Will Fuse Its Worth. I think one song out off the first album, one song off the second album is like good. Just a nod to our roots. But we don't need to be real heavy on that stuff. I think next year we'll do more Spiral Shadow and Ultraviolet, and Exhausting Fire. And just mix it up. We have the catalog,
Yeah.
So we're just heavily focusing on these records now, and then it'll be different.
So you played with Kylesa in all kinds of situations, different festivals, different tours, like in loads of places of the world. What would you say was the most bizarre show you played with Kylesa?
Probably opening for Lacuna Coil.
Okay.
Those were really weird shows.
Yeah.
Not good weird. Those shows were weird because I was like 2007, so we were still really brutal and not as psychedelic as we were later. And it was just a weird scene, man. Opening for Lacuna Coil and Within Temptation.
That's really weird.
Very weird. It was very bizarre. I was like, what kind of alternate reality am I living in right now?
Yeah, and I mean, the audience, I don't know, they must have, I don't know, hated. Hate is a...
They did not like it.
Yeah.
Some fellas would come up and be like, you guys are the most metal thing here. And I'd be like, yeah, I know. But for the most part, it did not go over well. But bizarre. We played houses, basements. I remember we played a show in Tijuana that we were originally booked. So it was us and Genghis Khan. Remember that band?
Yeah, Genghis Khan.
It was us. It was like 2007. We were booked at this sketchy place in Tijuana, and the promoter shows up and he's like, offers us this woman, and he asks us what kind of drugs we want, and then we're just kind of like, no. And then these kids come running up and they're like, fuck this guy, he sucks. We can't get into this shitty club. And I went into the club and it was a disaster. It was so disgusting. So these kids were like, if you follow us, we can do a show at the coffee shop. And we were like, okay, yeah, fuck this guy. Let's go. We're going with the kids. And we had already loaded all of our gear up the stairs in this like terrible club. And so we had to go take all the gear down the fire escape. And these kids helped us. And then we just rolled the gear down the street to some coffee shop. And they had a makeshift stage on a bunch of pallets, like wooden pallets. And this is when we had a lot of amps back then. So I had to have one guy, I gave him a shirt. I said, if I give you a shirt, will you just stand here and hold my amp tower so it doesn't fall over while we play? And he's like, yes. And so we played this show in this like weird little coffee shop to all of these kids, and it was awesome. It ruled. Yeah, that was super makeshift show. We were like, yeah, fuck this guy. We're gonna go down the street, play this coffee shop.
But playing in so many different occasions and surroundings, you must have come across a couple of musical heroes of yours, I guess.
I saw Slash at it'll come to me in the name of the festival.
Yeah.
Soundwave in Australia.
Could be, yeah.
I think it's Soundwave in Australia, but it was this traveling festival in Australia. It's 2011. I was in the same backstage like catering area as Slash, but he had like a harem of women around him. And he was like my hero, big time. And I was too chicken to go up to him and say anything, and I regret it to this day. My brothers were like, oh my God, Laura, you were in the same room with Slash and you didn't go say hello. They're like, you idiot.
Yeah.
I was like, I know.
And I've heard that he's a really nice guy.
And I heard but all these women were surrounding him, and I was like, well, I don't know. Felt weird. Yeah. But I've also heard he was so nice and lovely, but I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know how he would. I was too nervous. But at that same festival, I met Duff. And he was super nice.
Yeah. That was part of the fights. Yeah.
Yeah. He was so nice. It was like I kind of met him in passing, so it wasn't like much of a conversation.
But did you tell him, hey, I always was a big fan of the fights?
I think so, and I think he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm a nerd. I know." Yeah, he was really lovely.
Yeah. What about anybody from Black Sabbath?
No, I hope one day.
Yeah.
I'm so Ozzy. You're my favorite rocker of all time. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
If I were to meet Tony Iommi or Geezer or Bill, I don't know. I probably would just self-destruct immediately.
Stand in awe and just not be able
I
to.
think I would just go up and smoke, and then like then that'd be over.
In 2014, you did a session recording with 4 songs at the BBC's legendary Maida Vale Studios in London. Can you remember how that came about?
Oh, that was really, really cool. I cannot remember how it came about.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
But I know other bands were doing it, like Baroness did it.
Did it.
Yeah, so there was like an inn somewhere, you know. I can't remember who got us the gig, but doing it felt really special. And I knew it was special. The energy was super special. The engineer was awesome. He was super cool. And it was just a really cool experience. And I think the songs came out cool. Like, I'm super happy with the way they came out. And it was released later, like a couple of years later. But that was a really cool experience. We did it while we were on tour. You know, we just took a few days off or a day off and did it.
In 2016, Kylesa came to a halt, and with it, the label Retro Futurist that you had for a while. You quickly came up afterwards with a new project, The Discussion. And while it at first was rather a softer, more psychedelic affair, the band by now morphed into a sound mix between new and dark wave and post-punk. Was your love for such a sound, has it always been there?
It has been, you know, but it and you could hear some of it in later Kylesa, but it wouldn't have been you know, I had to start a different band. You know, it's it's too different.
Yeah.
And I will say that I was pretty burnt out on the metal scene when we stopped. I needed a break. I tuned my guitars up. I said, I'm tuning to standard. I want to do something different. I had a bit of a vision, but it was like a loose vision. I was like, I want it to be kind of shoegazy, kind of psychedelic, kind of goth, kind of loving some of my more alternative influences. And I wanted it to be melodic. And I wasn't gonna scream, and I wasn't gonna have any riffs, like no riffs.
Yeah.
And it was going to be a challenge to do it because it's me just writing the songs by myself and writing or starting a band that's in a completely different direction. It was very risky because I think what most people do is when they stop a band or their band breaks up is they just start something that's really similar. And sometimes that's successful and sometimes it isn't. But I just wanted to play different kinds of music. I needed to do it creatively.
Yeah.
So I started writing some songs that summer.
And it is, well, I mean, you came up with an EP pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly.
2017. But well, as you just said, the music is not riff based. There is no, like, you can't be the metal guitar heroine in that band. You don't even want to be that person. And I think sometimes it's rather like, instead of finding a good riff, it's rather like finding a fitting synthesizer pattern, maybe. figuring out how to work the synthesizer properly and like figuring out a way to like work with that now. Was it complicated starting almost all over again?
Totally. I bought my first synth in 2016, so I didn't even own one. I didn't know how to record. I didn't know how to do, I got Pro Tools. I met this guy, Richie, who was going to SCAD for sound design. So he knew Pro Tools, and he taught me a few basics. And he was a drummer. He was like a jazz drummer, kind of, but loved music. And he was a good drummer. And we became friends quite quickly. And I had a setup at my house. I had a drum kit, and he'd come over and play it. At first, I tried out a few different drummers, and no one was good enough. And then I found him, and I was like, this guy's good. So we jammed a bit, and I had written all of my demos in GarageBand. They were all just on GarageBand. With like, what kind of mic did I use? It might have just been like a snowball mic. I mean, and just
What is a snowball mic?
It's just a simple mic that has a few different settings where you could put it in front of the amp, and it's a USB mic. It plugs right into your computer.
Okay.
So I didn't necessarily have to have an interface. I then bought a cheap interface and started to learn how to record myself, but it was very rudimentary. But I was learning how to write these songs, and what I would do is program a beat generally, or find a good rhythm, and then oftentimes I would start with the bass and build from there. Bass or synth, and sometimes guitar. But I knew that the bass acts as like a rhythm guitar in a lot of it, and I knew that because I was going to be singing the whole time, that I didn't want to make my guitar parts too complicated so that I couldn't sing a nice melody over it.
You're now wearing a Gary Newman t-shirt. I know that you also own a Susie and the Banshees t-shirt. That's the stuff your music kind of is made of, or that's at least the stuff that is influential when it comes to your new music, the music of the discussion. Did you always, is that music that always was part of your life, or is that stuff that you basically discovered in the last, I don't know, 15 years or something?
I would say a little bit of both. I mean, Gary Newman I've been listening to forever. I think, and Susie and the Banshees too, because Susie and the Banshees is very punk adjacent.
Yeah.
And I was really, really into punk. So anything that looked halfway punk, I would buy when I was like 18 or 19, And that's how I discovered Magazine, because I saw the first Magazine record, Real Life, at like a thrift store, and it was 25 cents. I remember reading on the back, okay, it's the year 1978, Howard Devoto, this has to be cool. And I brought it home, and I was like, oh my God. I mean, I love that record. And then their second record is equally as good. And it's cool. It's like arty post-punk. It's got like elements of Pink Floyd. I mean, it's really interesting stuff, especially the second record. So I've been listening to Joy Division, for all these bands, The Cure, Gary Newman, like the big ones, for a long time.
What about more recent stuff like Cold Cave or Boy Harsher? Is that stuff you
So Boy Harsher went to Savannah College of Art and Design. I know them from Savannah. I saw them when they were first starting out in like 2014. I sold Gus his first chorus pedal, which he told me later. I didn't even remember. And I was like, I did? He's like, yeah, you even brought it to my house. I was like, oh, that's so nice. I don't even know. He's like, yeah, it was really nice. But yes, I love a lot of this new stuff. And it was when I was kind of starting to discover the new wave of this kinds of music. Like the classic stuff I've been listening to for years, but the newer stuff, the new wave of the stuff I probably started listening to in 2013, 14, when stuff would pop up on my radar, and then I really delved into it. And then we were talking the other day, I had a radio show, and that really got me aggressively looking for new music because I had an excuse to like find new music to play on the radio. So it got me out of my comfort zone of like listening to the same old stuff. I was like, I went down so many Bandcamp rabbit holes and found some awesome bands.
I love Bandcamp for that. Sure thing is that you already released a 7-inch with the discussion for the song Death Tripper. I know if is it called Death Tripper because there's a song called Day Tripper by the Beatles? No, it has nothing to do with that. But the B-side is a cover version. It's A Forest by The Cure that you didn't mention. So what does that song mean to you?
I just love early Cure. I love the bass line of that song. It's super catchy. Simon Gallup's bass playing has had a huge influence on me as I don't consider myself a bass player, but I do write a lot of bass parts. And I love his style. He's one of my favorites. So that bass line is just awesome. The guitar is awesome. The vocals are awesome. Everything about that song is awesome. And I wanted to cover. I first did it live, and then I needed a B-side, so I thought, okay, well, I'll just do that as a B-side. And it was a study in guitar tone. And I wanted to see, because their recording of that song is way more complex than it lends itself to sound like. There was a lot more layers than there appear to be. So it was a cool study, nothing more. So usually when I do cover songs, I'll change them a lot, like what I did with we did with Nirvana and Sabbath. But with this one, I wanted to keep it fairly true to the original because it was more of a study. So it doesn't veer too far.
You're living in LA now for a while, but as you just mentioned, back in Savannah, you had a radio show that was called Mixtapes and Lava Lamps on WRUU. So what could one expect hearing on the show?
I started out with the idea to just do to just play music like I would make a mixtape back in the day. And back in the day, I would make mixtapes that were all over the place stylistically, but the songs flowed well together. So I started it like that.
Did you comment on the songs?
Yes, so I would play. How did it go? I would play the song, and then maybe every third song, say what the song was and do just a brief comment about it. But some of my early episodes had like Mahavishnu Orchestra meets it could have been, it was just super random. Mahavishnu Orchestra, I think.
Pagan Altar.
Yeah, I think The Cure. Maybe I can't remember, but it was all over the place. And then as I was like going, then I decided I wanted to change gears and play newer bands that maybe people hadn't heard of. So that's when I was really digging into Bandcamp and finding bands. And it was just, I was finding stuff that I wanted to listen to. So I was really bands like Second Still, Cold Cave, Boy Harsher, Drab Majesty, Buzzcall,
Have a Nice Life. I don't know.
just a lot of these bands that then it's kind of started having a theme of more post-punk.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I'd throw punk in there too, like a really old obscure punk single.
By Blitz or something.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I probably played Blitz, something off their second record.
Yeah. When they went
When they
wave.
went new wave. Yeah.
From oi to new wave.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's one of the weirdest transitions in punk.
I know. I love both records though. I love their early records and I love their new wave records.
So as you mentioned, you played songs that you found on Bandcamp and whatnot. Did you play from different formats, or did you bring vinyl into the studio, then put on your old vinyl and stuff?
I wanted to mainly play vinyl, but the way that they had it set up, they only had one turntable, so it would have to be vinyl, then CD or MP3. So it was a little bit of everything.
Yeah. I know that at least you have been a huge vinyl collector, and I know that that you must have a bit of vinyl. Do you still own it, or is there no space in your small LA apartment for that? And
I had a storage unit in Savannah for a couple of years, and then I decided that I was tired of throwing away money every month.
Yeah.
And so I went back to Georgia and I got rid of it. And I just got rid what I couldn't fit in my attic. I sold or got rid of it. And then with the records, I was like, I have to take these to California.
Yeah.
So I took them to California.
How
I shipped them.
You shipped them?
Yeah.
How do you ship them? Like all around the continent then?
It was a huge
Panama Strait, or
it was a huge pain in the ass. I got something called a pod because I had furniture and stuff too that I was gonna take. It was cheaper than driving a truck, but the pod destroyed my prized piece of furniture, got destroyed in the whole thing. So I was super pissed. Had a beautiful mid-century like credenza, and it got destroyed.
That's a pity.
Mid-century modern. It was so beautiful.
I'm sorry.
I know, but my records made it.
Yeah.
And I did have to sell some of them because I was just like, I can't. I don't need 30 Frank Sinatra records, or 8. I had a bunch of country records too. That I was like, I don't need all these country records. So, I got rid of some records.
What is? Yeah.
And then I have them. I have a the big IKEA shelf. That one is all full of records, and then like another little mini shelf. So and I like to keep it. I'm like, if I can keep it that amount, it's okay.
What is your most prized possession, or at least like from a personal point of view, that you like a record that after searching for it for years, maybe you finally found?
Well, I think I'm not necessarily a collector so much because I've bought and sold a lot of records over the years. Like I've been in situations where I was really broke and I had to sell a bunch of records that were maybe worth some money. So I don't have those records anymore because I sold them.
Yeah.
If I maybe some I have that I won't sell because they're a big part of me. I don't know. I mean, I love my Sabbath records. I love all my records. They each have a different little story, how you got them. I love my original Sacrilege record. It's first press on Pussmort.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Sacrilege, a band that I just discovered a while ago, a metal band, quite crusty with a female singer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they released 2 records by the end of the 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with some Tolkien motives in their lyrics.
Oh, very Tolkien. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But who doesn't love some
Everybody.
of that?
The Zeppelins do love it.
Yes.
I
I don't know. I mean, I think the first Kylesa 7-inch is super important to me.
Yeah.
Because it's the first piece of vinyl I was ever on.
Mm-hmm.
The
Graced with the Passat artwork.
Yeah, which is super special. You know. The discussion is also really important because it's my first solo material. I mean, that's basically a solo project. So it was my first solo record.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a big deal as an artist.
Oh.
And I love all my krautrock records mean a lot to me because I love the genre so much.
Yeah. Years ago, you recorded a couple of mixtapes for me, or mix CDs, and there is Neu on it with Weißensee. We are actually not that far away from Weißensee.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love them. They're so great.
Yeah. Also, like weirdly timeless sounding.
Yes.
Far ahead of their time.
So ahead of their time.
Yeah.
So ahead of their time.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that those recordings are that old.
Yeah. But how did you get into krautrock? Was it popular? Is it popular in the States? Because the thing is, I think that all those krautrock bands weren't necessarily popular in Germany, but they got popular in England and in Japan and in other parts of the world. And at some point they, I don't know, were those cult icons with those weird bands from Germany.
Philip definitely turned me on to the stuff. And then, I first heard Can from Philip.
Yeah.
And then I just dove in.
Mm-hmm.
I connected with the music and dove in. And you know who there was a label called Soul Jazz out of the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a really nice series of German electronic experimental music. Mm-hmm. And I have all of them. I bought all of them. They have several volumes. And it's like it spans maybe throughout the 70s. And so it's kind of like a greatest hits of like, Harmonia, of course, Can, Papovul,
Düsseldorf.
Yes, La Düsseldorf. Yes, all these bands.
Yeah.
So I love them. Agitation Free. I got into and I have a lot of those records. A lot of them are bootlegs, but some of them are because they were for a while in the States. They were very hard to find, and I would buy most of. I would have to be over here to buy them, and I could find them in Germany and the UK, but I couldn't. They were hard to get in the United States.
Yeah.
Fast forward to now, they're much easier to get in the United States because they've been reissued and are more available.
Yeah. Yeah, there have been quite some reissues over the years. Yeah. Is there still vinyl in your collection that you got from your mother's vinyl collection?
Yes. Yes. I still have her Led Zeppelin 1 record, and it says her name on it.
Mm-hmm.
All of her Beatles records. Clockwork Orange soundtrack. The Doors record was hers, the first one. Some of the Rolling Stones. Yeah, I kept a lot of them. And I wish I kept all of them, but over the years it just they didn't all survive. But I do have a chunk.
Yeah. So Kylesa is going is now going again. The discussion you just released your solo album. And if that is not enough, there's this third band you are part of.
Oh,
I
that's
think so far it is, Sick Corpse. Only released 4 songs in 2024. It's cool, old school, hardcore punk. You sing that, or for some part. I think you, the vocals are.
One of the other girls
Yeah.
sings on one of the songs.
And you recorded those 4 songs in Dave Grohl's Studio 606.
Yes.
So what's the story behind Sick Corpse?
I was with my friend Magda, and she's the other guitar player, and she was like, "Oh, I just haven't been in a band in so long." And she was in a stoner rock band called Green and Wood. And
Doesn't really.
I don't know them either. I didn't know them, but they're from Southern California. And she did that for a while and then didn't do it. And it had been like a decade or something since she had played in a band. And she was coming up on her 40th birthday. And I said, well, why don't we just start a punk band for fun and we'll play your party? And she was like, okay, that sounds great. So we did it. And we wrote, my whole thing was I didn't have time to do this band because I was trying to finish up the discussion recordings.
Yeah.
So she wrote some of the music and I wrote some of the music. And I was just kind of like, well, I'm going to write these punk songs in 5 minutes or less. That's what I'm dedicating to this project. 5 minutes or less. No, don't overthink it. It's simple punk rock. And then they came out surprisingly good. She's friends with Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
As one is, I guess, when you live in LA. And he loved the project. She would send him videos of us rehearsing. And he was like, oh, yeah, it sounds awesome. Like, you guys just go record in the studio. So we did. And we recorded to tape, which I hadn't done since the first Kylesa record. And I mean, that's such a nice studio, such a nice board. The live room was incredible. I mean, we did it really fast in 3 days because we recorded 10 songs. But so there's 6 other songs that our drummer has not mastered. He's not going to listen to this, so I can say, Nick, just fucking master the songs already. Because there's 6 other songs that are pretty cool. But we released 4 songs, and then we play. We'll play like 4 or 5 times a year, maybe. It's just for fun. It's just for fun.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. There's also this super group that Bob Belch, guitarist from Fu Manchu, started or put together in 2024. And as Slower, he plays Slayer songs, but slow and low. And you have been briefly part of that, singing South of Heaven. How did you end up in this liaison?
He asked me to do the whole thing, and I didn't have time. I was like, man, I'd love to, but I'm about to go record this album. I don't have time to do a whole EP with you. But I was like, I'll do this one song. And I was stoked because it was fun. And singing those lyrics was so insane. I printed them out, and then I was like going through some takes. I just did it at my house, and then I sent him the tracks. And because the lyrics are so brutal, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun talking to you, Laura, but thanks for doing this.
Yes, Jan, always a pleasure. I love talking music with you. It's always fun.
Thank you very much. Liebe Zuhörerinnen, Zuhörer und alle irgendwo dazwischen, wer auf dem Laufenden bleiben möchte und neugierig ist, in welcher Situation das Gespräch stattgefunden hat, darf gerne den Instagram-Kanal des Visions-Magazins abonnieren oder meinen persönlichen unter Jan Schwarzkamp. Selbstverständlich gerne alle beide. Und wer das Online-Abo von Visions Plus abschließt, kann den Podcast außerdem immer schon exklusiv vorab hören. Bleibt gesund und bleibt mir treu. Und dann hören wir uns hoffentlich bei der nächsten Episode von Der Soundtrack meines Lebens wieder. Bis dahin, euer Jan Schwarzkamp.